gosh. Okay. I'm just getting ahead of myself. Okay. This is episode 2 of School Lifeline. Mark. Beautiful. Okay. We're back.
We are back.
Almost like we never left.
I know.
It's only like we maybe just had class or something, and then we're back. And I totally only didn't change my vest for this. At all.
No, yeah.
I'll leave it up to the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
If
Same
you
with my
audio
pants.
listeners, you'll never know. You'll never know.
Anyways, for this episode, we are going to just switch things into high gear. We are going to be talking about our sort of biggest influences and inspirations, both currently and lifelong, that just really, for lack of a better word, influence our work today. Would you like to start?
Oh my god, I think you're hitting me with the hard questions.
I can start if you want.
No. It's okay. I definitely think... Oh, I don't even know where to begin. Okay. So, we talked about this on the last episode, but we were both studying cinematography. So I think what better way than to start with some of our favorite cinematic influencers, if you will.
Yes.
But, okay, first things first. I will say the first time that I think I noticed, like really noticed and kind of internalized what cinematography was beyond just being like, oh, that movie looks cinematic. You know, like,
that's a pretty shot.
Oh, that's a pretty shot. Beyond that, I think the first time I ever really noticed that someone had to like take the time for that was when I watched La La Land in person in theaters with my mom in 2016. That film for me just did something. And again, this was kind of before I realized I wanted to work in film, but that was one of the first times when I really realized that, like, okay, there's a list of a bunch of people working behind the scenes to make this possible. And I remember looking up who made that afterwards, and it was Lena Sandgren. And then I remember being like, okay, I need to watch what else he's made, because if this looks as good as it does,
study up, yeah.
I need to see what else he's done, because I'm sure it also looks beautiful.
Yes.
Or just, like, very entrancing, if you will. Because, I mean, I've always loved musicals. My mom's always loved musicals. And we went to go see, we went to go see La La Land knowing that, okay, this is a new musical that's out. Looks cool. I love Emma Stone. I would also say she's an influence of mine. But seeing that, I remember going in and leaving, and then honestly the first time I saw it, not being sure what I thought of the movie, but I did know that I loved how it looked.
Yeah.
I was like, this is one of the most beautifully shot things I've ever seen. I remember thinking that, okay, beyond just visual aesthetic, I was like, musicals, obviously there's choreography in dancing and singing, and I remember thinking that the way the camera moved in this was so choreographed and in the best way possible.
Yes.
It felt like it was a part of the dancing and the singing that was going on. And a lot of times, like when you go and watch theater, you go watch these stage productions, the people on stage are phenomenal, and it's a different type of acting, and they have beautiful voices.
Yes.
But you're sitting down watching them perform to you. When you watch a video, like a movie musical, the camera gets to be a part of this choreography, gets to very specifically choose what you're seeing, whose role or whose part, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to word this, but who they're focusing on in that moment. Yeah. Because in a stage, when you're watching, you are kind of like looking around,
there
getting to
so many moving parts. Yeah.
So many moving parts. Even the stage itself moves. But when you watch it on a movie, they're being very specific of what they want you to see versus what they don't, and who you're watching.
Yeah.
And again, I just think that's so cool. And then like learning about some of the behind the scenes, how they had to use a crane. They literally have to choreograph when they're moving said crane, especially in that opening shot on the highway where you have to cut
where
it all down. Where
they have to hide everything.
Yeah, crazy. I don't even know.
Can be like...
And I know it wasn't officially a oneer, but it watches like a oneer, which is crazy to me. And okay, for those of you who don't know, a oneer is when it's like one take that's really long, and so instead of going shot to shot of like cutting in between, it's this one take that shows kind of like a whole scene.
Yeah.
And so I remember just being so entranced by that movie, and it's still one that I watch all the time. There was a point in my life when I was watching it at least once a month. Mm-hmm. I can confidently say I've watched that movie over 20-something times, like a lot. My most watched movie for sure.
Yeah, and it's like it's I feel like La La Land specifically, and the way Lena shot it, it's such like a textbook way to it redefines how people should shoot musicals, because one of my favorite movie musicals ever to this day, which I don't think will ever change, is Chicago.
Love
And
Chicago.
The camera, the cinematography there, I feel like is a lot more detached, because it's shot like you're watching a play. Like, think Cell Block Tango. They're on a set. We're in Roxy's
They're
POV.
performing for you.
They're performing to the back of the auditorium, to the back of the fucking theater.
Yeah. Which is what you're supposed to do when you're a theater actor. Like, that is, again, it's two completely different worlds. And so
the way La La Land shot it, putting you in it, beautiful. Like,
oh my gosh,
it's absolutely
it's
insane.
Crazy. And of course, like, La La Land itself is about a musician and an actress who, these are artists, and it's cool that you really get to step kind of into their shoes in that moment, and especially with the way the camera does it, versus when theater actors or like some of the other movies that are shot more like that, in mind, you are the observer. Like, you are a part of the audience. And I mean, in Chicago, I love Chicago, one of my favorite musicals, but like you said, they perform it like they're on a stage, and also there's parts when they're talking directly to the camera because you are learning about this trial and everything going on. And also, in the movie, they're performers, so they're performing. And so it makes sense for that film, but it's cool to see the different ways that they shoot it.
Yeah.
And again, La La Land has influenced me so much. Another influence I'll talk about, but is The Wizard of Oz, which is another musical.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies, probably my favorite movie of all time. The first movie I remember watching, and I have a whole long story that I'll actually go into, but we'll wait for a second. But yeah, I mean, musicals have influenced a lot about me, and just like the media that I've enjoyed and watched. And I mean, like, I think my biggest goal in life would be to shoot a feature movie musical. And I have so many references and examples that I could point out, but like, that's probably one of my biggest goals.
No, yeah.
For sure, hands down.
Yeah. Oh.
But okay, that was one of my influences. I want to hear one of yours.
Oh gosh. Cinematic. Okay. Let's try to narrow it down. Oh, okay, the first person that came to mind right now of the list that I have generated for myself literally like 30 minutes ago, the first person that came to mind was Mike Flanagan. He, like, okay, backstory, I am a huge fan of horror. And it's been a very recent sort of infatuation with it. It started when I was around 2017-ish, but since then I love horror so much, and the way Mike Flanagan does horror is just beyond me. It's some of my favorite media to consume, just his shows, his movies. A lot of it is influenced by literature, but it's not like page to screen. He takes the themes of whatever literature he's doing, like in his most recent Fall of the House of Usher, he takes like 8 different Edgar Allan Poe famous works of his, short stories and everything, and interweaves it into like the plot of each episode while masterfully bringing in this bigger family drama plot. And it's just like, he makes it work. Like, he's a writer director. He pretty much writes almost everything that he's done, and he's just so masterful at it. And like, his horror is like 100% the type of horror like how I have the same sort of desire to shoot musicals as you, but I would love to shoot horror. It's one of my biggest dreams to like shoot a horror feature, horror show, and I want it to like, my biggest inspiration is Mike Flanagan. The Haunting of Hill House, I think to this day, is, I believe, this is my opinion, one of the best lit things I have ever seen in my entire life. The gaffing in that show is insane. There's this.
I haven't seen it,
oh,
so I'll need to watch it.
You are in for a treat. There's this one episode where this isn't a spoiler. But one of the spirits of like the house is like kind of like negatively influencing Carla Gugino's character. By the way, Carla Gugino, queen. people need to recognize her more. She's so underrated. And it's this nighttime scene in this one bedroom of the house, and she, like, the spirit kind of like walks behind her, and like the lighting there is just so it blows my mind. I'm doing a horrible job explaining this. Absolutely horrible. I hope people know what scene I'm talking about. I'll send you the link to the scene. But like she's like talking in her, like the devil in her ear, and it's lit in such a way where like she's behind her and she crosses, and like she gets blacked out, but you get this eye light, and it's like she's completely blacked out except for her eyes, and
Wait,
it's
that
absolutely
seems so difficult.
no, it's insane. I'm like awestruck by how great this lighting is, and I recently rewatched it last semester in like October for spooky season, because I'm like, this is a great time to rewatch it. It's also one of my favorite shows of all time, if not like literally top 3. And I watched it, and given the context of being in film school for like half a semester at that point, and already knowing so much about lighting setups, knowing so much about like how, like, okay, that like him in here, yada yada yada, I'm like, how did they like this? Because if I were to stand on like her left shoulder, she's completely lit, and just crossing over behind her, and she's shadowed by her, but still having that eye light.
Yeah, that seems
absolutely. That's again, that's the type of horror that I want to shoot. Not only just like technically with that insane sort of lighting setup, but just also story wise. I would love to tell that complex sort of family drama story that's like has so many moving parts in it, so many different sort of POVs, yet it's still, by the end of like the season, by the end of the show, the last episode, it all ties together with every single question answered, no holes left.
That's impressive, because I feel like so many TV shows, and again, I might not be the best
limited
person.
series too. Yeah,
and I might not be the best person to comment on this, because I honestly haven't seen all that many TV shows, but like a common thing you see is that, and again, TV's produced differently, and so I get that you don't always know if you'll get the pretty bow ending like in a film you do, but like there's always so many plot holes. Not always, but a lot of times you'll find plot holes missing because they don't even have the time, like they don't get another season to answer them, or like you go with the things that are working well that people are talking about, and so it's really difficult. Like I can't even imagine. That is beyond me.
Yeah.
But when a show is done really well and has these like really well thought out, you can tell writing, like the writing is really well thought out, and just like I feel like that's always so satisfying as an audience viewer, because you're like, not only was this made visually super amazingly, but like the story itself is something else. Like that is so hard. I can't imagine having that many characters, plot lines, everything, and it just tying up so nicely like that.
And he's just like, Flanagan, I think, is and always will be just such a huge influence and inspiration on me as like a creative, because he's so meticulous, and also he's just a fucking nerd, and I love that. And like the thing is, like, he has such a profound understanding of the horror genre. Like he's incredibly well read, as you can see, because a lot of the stuff he adapts from books. Like Stephen King like hates The Shining because he always wants truthful adaptations of his work. Stephen King loves Mike Flanagan, and that's a sign. That's a sign. And also, like, apart from his other, like, his earlier works, I have yet to see Oculus. It's been on my list for so long. But, like, I saw Hush a few years ago, which, if you don't know, Hush is about a deaf screenwriter who, like, lives in the woods, and it's a home invasion movie. And it's just about her trying to survive this, like, attacker who's trying to, like, kill her in her home. No, she's not deaf. She's mute, actually. Or maybe deaf and mute. I forgot. Anyways, and like, I remember watching it for the first time, and I was like just so chilled. He just does it so well, and like, horror. Yeah, I want to shoot horror.
You want to shoot horror?
Yeah, I want to shoot horror. Like just so much like how he does it.
That's a good goal to have, and I think that's very much something you can do. And I mean, horror is really cool, and I feel like it takes someone who really wants to do it well, because I feel like there's enough like mediocre or not so great horror things out there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I feel like that's a really cool goal to have and something you can definitely achieve.
No, yeah, definitely.
But yeah. Okay, so moving on a little bit from the horror realm, and okay, we were just talking about. Remind me, was he a DP or
he's
director?
He's a writer director.
Writer director. Okay,
yeah.
Excuse me, my fault. But but okay, no, that's really cool. I'm trying to think. You just touched on. Oh my god, why am I blanking? I just touched on La La Land, and you just touched on Mike Flanagan.
Yes.
And so, what's another? I want to hear. Okay, La La Land is one of my top 4 on Letterboxd. If you know Letterboxd, obviously, that's a common question. And you know what? One day I hope that Letterboxd comes and interviews me on the carpet and is like,
no, me too.
What are your top 4
films?
And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so difficult.
Oh, that's so difficult.
Yeah. And the thing is, I do think that it changes a bit because it's tough. I have my movies that have influenced me and I love. Mm-hmm. But then there's also things that I watch and I'm like, I'm obsessed with this.
Yes, 100%.
And then I can't stop thinking about it. And so then I'm like, do I change my top 4? Even though my top 4 have been the same for so long because I love my top 4. But yeah. Okay, so La La Land is one of mine. Mm-hmm. What's one of yours?
My favorite movie of all time in the history of the world, I feel like I'm saying that a lot this episode, is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Which I'm so glad
by
you said
Edgar
that.
Wright.
Because I watched that for the first time literally a month ago while I was home for Christmas, was with my family. And it was funny because I don't know what enticed me to watch it, but I, for some reason, had been hearing a lot about it. And obviously this isn't a new movie.
Yeah.
But
10 years old, I think, this year.
A lot about it from people, and like, yes, being in film school, but honestly people in film school don't really talk about that film that much.
Yeah.
But I was hearing about it on TikTok and social media, and I think you might have brought it up.
And I think it was because of the animated show that came out last year.
Okay, and then someone else brought it up. Like, I was starting to hear it all the time. So I go home, and I offhandedly make a comment. I was like, oh, I want to watch a movie tonight. Anyone want to watch Scott Pilgrim? Have you guys seen it? And immediately my dad is like, wait, no, sorry, I'm wrong. It was my brother. My brother was like, oh my god, you want to watch that tonight? And he had plans. He had plans with friends.
Wait,
no,
real.
This was so funny. And he was like, you have to wait. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. I've heard this is a good movie, but to hear my brother react like that, I was like, you must really love this. And my brother loves film, so I'm not surprised, but just the way he reacted, I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, well, I was going to ask my dad if he wanted to watch it, because for some reason I thought he had said something about it one time. And he was like, but you can't watch that without me. You can't. And I was like, oh my god, okay. And so then I asked my dad, I was like, would you want to watch this tonight? He's like, oh my god, I love that movie. And I was like, whoa. Okay. My dad, he has a very particular, I wouldn't say very particular taste, but like, he likes what he likes.
Yeah.
And he also doesn't like what he doesn't like. And one of the longest running jokes that my dad has for my mom and I, and separately, but he'll do it to both of us, is he'll walk in like from work or wherever, and we'll be watching something, and he's like, ugh, I thought you only watched good things. And so it will be like a joke on, and again, it's usually the content of the film has nothing to do with that, but he just makes this joke where he's like, I only watch good things. And so then it's like, okay, well, if he likes it, then this must be something really good.
Yeah.
Even though, where does he get these ideas? I don't know. But he was like, no, I really want to watch that. And then he was like, did Andrew say he wanted to watch that? And I was like, actually, yeah, he really did say he wanted to watch it. And he was like, yeah, we have to wait for him. And I was like, okay. So my brother, I think we ended up watching it either the next day or like we found a different time to watch it so we could all watch it together. And I will say sometimes I have a bad habit of like, when I'm just putting a movie on, I'll be on my phone sometimes and like scrolling and not fully paying attention. When I want to watch a movie, I will fully watch a movie. Yeah. But sometimes when originally didn't know much about this film where I was like, I'll put it on. But my parents were like making an event out. Well, sorry, not my parents, but my brother and my dad were like, we're going to watch this. Phones are going to be put away. Lights are going to be off. It's going to be nighttime. We are going to watch this movie. And I was like, okay, guys, I've heard good things, but I'm still so shocked. Like, a lot of quote-unquote good things that I think, like, the masses have watched, I feel like I've watched a good amount of them. No, so for this to be a spectacle before I'd even seen it, I was shocked. And so we end up, like, again, the lights are down. We had our Christmas cookies we were eating. Phones are away. We're watching it. And immediately that movie started, and I had never seen anything like it before. And I loved it. I really, really loved it.
Because it's so amazingly conceptual. Like, those who know me, like this year, this school year alone, I've been nonstop shutting up about like, while I'm here at film school, I want to make something just highly conceptual. This Scott Pilgrim is what I mean, and it's like it's it's making fun of itself yet completely fucking serious at the same time.
No, but it's so like, it's a perfect mix of it. Again, it's a live action film for sure, but like
based off a video game, based off an 8-bit,
elements of video game, cartoon, animation, like so much. And so I was just highly impressed with it. And also, it has some of the best one-liners. And also, the other funny thing was not only just the one-liners, but I didn't realize how many quotes that I knew from that movie because of freaking TikTok. Yeah. Like, there was the scene where it's like oh no, like what is it, when she's washing her, dyeing her hair.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, as soon as the first line of that, monologue came up, or that scene, I was like, I know this. And then it was, oh my gosh, she was like, she only likes me because she's, or like, he only, like, she's like 25.
She's like 25!
And then whatever the whole quote is, like, I'm totally blanking, but that was coming on, and I was, like, mouthing it along with it as I was watching it. I was like,
she was fat.
Yeah. I think you said she was fat. She's like, you should rent.
Yeah.
And so I remember, and I remember being like, oh my god, I know this. And so that was really funny. And then there was more quotes too, but I remember the 7 Evil X's, and I was like, I had no idea that was from that movie. And the thing is like, okay, when I heard that quote for the first time, why did I not question someone having 7 Evil X's? And of course it's from a film. Like, duh. But why did I not think anything of it? And then I hear it, and I'm like, oh, okay.
No, yeah.
And that was awesome. The fighting, epic.
No,
I just loved that film. And I think going into it, having really no idea what it was about, and then having my brother and my dad being like, we're gonna watch this, like, this is gonna be the best thing ever, and then we doing that, and then it living up to that, I was like, that was so worth it.
No,
such a good film.
100%. Like, it's just, oh my god. And the thing is, like, I didn't even realize it was my favorite film of all time until like last year, because like it's always been since 2014 when it came out. It like I would watch it every now and then, but every single time I watched it, it would just instantly brighten my mood. And like, I can't say that about a lot of media that I consume. And so it just slowly became that one thing where like, if I want to watch something, I just put on that.
No, and like, it's crazy to think that like, it's so easy to realize that you don't realize how much you love something.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, okay, again, for me, La La Land is one of my favorite of all times, and I watched it all the time. But that's a sad movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's
the ending.
The ending is kind of heartbreaking, but like, I would watch it and feel so comforted. Like, such a comfort movie for me.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy because it's like, I wouldn't have thought that one of my favorite movies ever would be such a sad one.
Yeah.
You know? And so then in the opposite way, where you're like, you don't realize how much you love something because you're like, oh, this is hilarious, this is a comedy, like, done really well, whatever. Yeah. But then you just keep coming back to it. Like, that's cool.
No, yeah. And it's just, it's, oh god, yeah. To me, like, y'all can judge me if you want. I do not give a shit. That Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is, like, honestly my definition of a perfect movie. Like, it's hilarious. Again, like you said, so fucking quotable. So honestly, I think some of, like, the, like, mind you, this movie is stacked with actors.
Oh my god, the cast.
And also, before their prime.
Chris
most of
Evans
them. Chris Evans. Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
He needs more roles like that. Chris, if you're listening, you need more roles like that. You need more roles like Lucas Lee. You're perfect in that movie.
What, Michael
Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Anna fucking Kendrick.
Oh,
Aubrey Plaza. Okay.
Oh yeah, Aubrey Plaza.
Sorry, an aside.
I'm in love with Aubrey Plaza.
An aside, fun fact about Aubrey Plaza, she said that she was having like bad luck, I think, with auditions, and then all of a sudden she got casted in Parks and Rec and Scott Pilgrim in the same week. That's crazy. I know, isn't that fucking wild?
I'm in love with Aubrey Plaza. Also, that leads me to my next influence, so just remind me when you finish.
No, yeah. Also, Mae Whitman, one of Mae Whitman's best roles, hands down.
Yeah.
Again, I quote Roxy like a motherfucker. I love her lines. Her BF is about to get F'd in the B is poetry. Edgar Wright, I love you. I'm so indebted to you. I'm looking straight into camera. I love you so much, Edgar Wright. You're probably never gonna listen to this or know my name, but
speak it into existence.
No, actually, you are gonna know my name.
And then you're gonna work with
No, yeah, I'm gonna work with you one day, and I hope it'll be something like 1 percentile as good as Scott Pilgrim versus the World is.
Okay, I'm so mad that I'm blanking now, but what's the one line when he's like trying to say I love you, but then he goes, I'm
in lesbians with you. I'm in lesbians with you.
And then he was like, crap, I didn't mean to say that. Or whatever it is, but that line made me laugh really hard. That was such an awesome movie. But okay, speaking of Aubrey Plaza, I had the privilege. I went to Sundance over.
Oh my god, yes.
A couple weeks ago. Yeah, you go. Hold on. So I went to Sundance for the first time ever. This is actually my first film festival that I've ever been to, and I just went. Our school was doing a trip, like a not study abroad, but like a travel course over our interterm, like between winter break. We went for the first half, and I got to see so many incredible movies. And I actually, one of my all-time favorites that I saw while I was there, mind you, I went to 13 screenings, which is a lot. Saw 11 films and 2 short program screenings where I got to see a bunch of short films. One of the ones that I saw had Aubrey Plaza in it. It was called My Old Ass, and it was directed by Megan Park. And Megan Park was actually on my list of influences currently for me. Gosh. Because this was her sophomore film. Her first one was The Fallout, which that one had Maddie Ziegler and had
the school shooting one.
Jenna
that
Ortega.
One's good.
Really good. But this one blew... I mean, The Fallout was already really good. But this one blew The Fallout out of the water.
That's wild.
And again, called My Old Ass. And quick little log line is a girl about a month going away to college. A month before she goes away to college, her and her friends go take mushrooms in the woods. And while she's tripping, she meets her older self. And her older self is Aubrey Plaza. And the younger actress, her name is, oh my gosh, I want to say it's Maisie Stella, but she was incredible. She did such a good job. But her older self is Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah.
And that movie, I like the log line. I was like, okay, this is gonna be funny, like whatever. And there was a lot of laughing, a lot of crying.
That's
and I'm not gonna spoil anything because it did get picked up and it'll be seen later. And I can't wait to go watch it again when it's in theaters. But incredible movie. Great performance by both of them. But Megan Park has been one of my influences recently because she actually started out, what I knew her in first was she acted, I believe, in The Secret Life of the American Teenager, which was, I need to double check because if I'm wrong, but she's the blonde one, the...
Oh my god.
Like, really, it's just so funny because I was like, she looks so familiar, and I got to hear her talk doing a Q&A after the screening, and she was just the most, like, poised, but, like, cute, cute sounds patronizing, and I don't mean it like that at all. She was just, like, so... I just, like, really wanted to go and give her a hug, because I was like, this was such a beautiful and amazing film, and you are incredible, and I feel like she just captured... In this film, she just captured, like, grief and sadness and, like, teenage, like... the change that a teenager goes through right before leaving college or leaving for college or whatever it is. And it was beautiful. Like, family relation. Beautiful film. Everyone needs to go see it when it comes out. I loved it. Loved it. And I think everyone could benefit from watching it. But,
I love that.
Again, that was really cool because Aubrey Plaza was in that. And so that reminded me of it. But it's cool to hear these stories, too, of people where they start off and are going in these ruts because... I feel like one of the most classic stories that I hear about in terms of, like, people who are wanting to get into acting is, like, John Krasinski. Yeah. Apparently, like, his story was where he was doing all these auditions, getting nothing, and then finally he was, like, called his mom, and this was after a long whatever. It was like, I'm coming home. Like, I can't do this anymore. And again, I hope I'm getting this right, but it's like, I can't do this anymore. I need to go. And she's like... just do one more. And that's how he got the office, was like doing that next one. And so I feel like this is just a good lesson for anyone in this industry where you're constantly going to be getting rejected. And especially in acting, I feel like that feels so I mean, a lot of people take things and feel it so personally, but especially in acting when, like, your job is your face and you're acting and, like, you as a human. And again, it's not always, that's not all of it.
Yeah.
Because you never know why someone's getting casted.
Yeah,
Sometimes
100%.
the role just fits someone better, even if you did a great job with the audition, whatever. But in film in general, with like, you have to show your personal work. As artists, you are being so vulnerable. You are putting your blood, sweat, and tears into these, your demo reels or whatever it is, like these pitches, all of it, and you're relating to these stories and characters and whatever, and to be told no, and not just one time, but again and again and again, that's so defeating. But so many people make it after just trying, after feeling like they've hit rock bottom, and I think it's a good life lesson.
No,
it's
100%.
A good life lesson for me, for sure, because I know, again, we're not really at that place yet. I'm not, but being able to know that that's coming, but people have made it, will make it, it's like a very comforting thing to have in the back of your mind.
100%. Oh my god, that movie sounds so interesting.
That movie was so good.
God.
I saw a lot of really good things at Sundance.
Yeah.
I'll plug another one, but it's on Hulu, I want to say now, but or maybe Netflix. Oh my god. I'm sorry guys, I'm sorry, don't. I still would love to do something with you guys. But I watched The Greatest Night in Pop, which was an incredible documentary.
Right.
And that one is about the night in pop history in the 80s when, after the AMAs, all the biggest artists of all time, Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, the list goes on and on, make the movie We Are the World, or make the song We Are the World. They record it, and it goes out, and it was for raising money for hunger in Africa.
Yeah, in Africa, yeah.
But the documentary is told through, they interview a lot of people, but Lionel Richie is kind of like the focal point, like, who tells the story. It's kind of through, it is through his lens, but I mean, they do a really good job of getting interviews and seeing it, but there was so much undocumented footage that has never been seen before, and now it has, and it was incredible. Like, love that film. My parents, I told them that they should watch it, and it was coming out soon. They ended up watching it, and they said they clapped. And I was like, this is so sweet. No, it's so sweet. And, like, again, they were watching it at home. Yeah. So it's, like, sweet that they were like, oh, my gosh. And, again, I wasn't alive in the 80s, but, like, I can't imagine having been alive, like, that coming out and being like, oh, my God, no way 40-something artists are all together making this. So cool. Oh, my gosh, I'm getting way past influences. Yeah. But, okay, this touches on a great thing, though, was Sundance and film festivals in general, I have realized, are a phenomenal point of finding influence. Yes. Because you go to this place where all people kind of come... Yeah. All people come, and they're kind of on a level playing field, because it's like, when, and I don't want to say level playing field because obviously these people are incredible and I don't want to minimize anyone's talents and accomplishments, but like, I was in Park City, and I was with my classmates, you know, we're all there meeting people, and you'd be sitting on the bus, like, getting bused to whatever theater, and you'd be like, oh, talking to the person next to you, you don't know who they are, and you're like, oh, what are you at Sundance for? And you could tell that people were there to see the film, because they'd be talking about them, and they'd be like, oh, I actually have a film here, and you're like, oh my gosh, what was your role? That's incredible. They'd be like, yeah, I directed that, and you're like, oh my gosh, I am sitting next to someone who has a film at Sundance, which is just, like, such an incredible accomplishment.
It's wild, yeah.
And it gave me so much inspiration for just, like, okay, I want to get something there one day. Oh, yeah. I would love that. Now it's inspiring.
You realize how actually, like, attainable it is for, like, people in our position.
Yeah, and not that it's not super difficult and highly competitive and all the things, but, like, you see people there who are eager to talk about film just like I am, like, people who are in, like, love film just as much. They seem very hardworking and very cool. Like, there was this one lady that I ran into all the time, and she had the coolest outfits every single day. And I was so honestly upset because I was like, I don't really own any cold weather clothes, and so I was like, I don't look fashionable while I'm cold, and I was like, I don't want to let her down, but I ran into her so many times, and she was just the coolest person ever, and she had directed an animated short, like, which was so cool.
That's wild.
And I mean, I wish I could have gone and seen everyone's things that were there. Like, every single person I met, I was, like, personally so sad if I wasn't able to get a ticket. Yeah. Granted, you can't just go in and go see everything. It was a lot more difficult than that. Yeah. But it was so cool. Oh, my gosh. And another huge influence that, like, has honestly kind of changed. I don't want to say, this sounds so dramatic, but, like, sort of changed the trajectory of my life a tad. I say it lightly, but the guy who wrote and directed Dee Dee, which won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance, got picked up by Focus Features. He actually has a Oscar-nominated documentary short for this coming Oscars.
Oh shit!
Incredible, yeah. He's 28.
Jesus.
And he started writing, if I remember this correctly, started writing Dee Dee when he was 21. So it was like a 7-year process of like him writing it, and he went to different, like, I think he got to go to the like screenwriters lab for Sundance. Like, I don't know the specific terms, but worked with people to help really hone in on it and get the story done.
Yeah.
And then I think it sounded like he ended up produced, like, when it actually came time to film it, all of that happened in less than a year, like the filming, editing. But yeah, crazy.
That's wild.
Wild. No,
a feature?
So wild. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
But it was so inspiring because I was like, that guy started when he was 21. I'm 21 right now.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, he kind of changed this like trajectory where I'm like, okay, I need to think of myself as beyond just a film student. And granted, right now I am in school, I am a student, but I don't need to limit myself to what I'm doing being student projects.
Yes.
Or like being a student cinematographer. Like, I need to think of myself as a cinematographer in school.
Yeah.
Rather than...
That's a great way to put it.
And it's difficult because you have to rewire your brain. You have to like have a certain self-confidence that like maybe you believe it, maybe you don't, but like you need to start thinking, because I'm sure that his name's Sean Wong. I'm sure Sean, when he was writing this feature at 21, like, he had the confidence that I know this is going to do big things.
Yeah. And
I'm going to do that. Like, I know I'm going to work hard on it. And maybe, again, I'm not in his brain, but if that's how he started, or maybe he got to that point, but I think it gives me a very real-life perspective of someone I got to talk to very briefly, like, got to hear him speak on a panel, hear about this process of him making this film from the conception to it being picked up by Focus. Like, it just shows that, okay, you're a real human at 21, you know, like, and not to say that I don't feel like a real human, but like, people are capable of really amazing things at all ages. And that also goes for people who are way older who maybe feel like it's too late to start something. Like, it's just cool to see that you never should count yourself out, no matter like age, whatever it may be. Yeah. But again, I'd say like I did get a lot of inspiration and found a lot of influence even recently just from people at Sundance, which was so cool. And I knew I was gonna have a fun time on this trip, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I get to go see a lot of new films before other people get to see them. Maybe I'll meet some people. But I didn't realize how much of an impact it literally had on me.
How profound that experience was.
Yes. It was like therapy for a couple days. I got to bond with people at school that I originally probably wouldn't have met because I was the only grad student on the trip. Got to meet a bunch of undergrads who were great people. They were so cool. And just like hear about everyone's goals and dreams, and it was just overall like
that sounds like a really nice
so
experience.
Much inspiration and influence found just there.
No, oh my gosh. I mean, I also had like a film festival experience, but it's not to like the level of Sundance, because like I only saw like a good 2 films there, and neither of them had Q&As after. But when I studied abroad in South Korea, I went to the Busan International Film Festival. That was my first ever sort of experience. I mean, I did Sundance when it went online, because it was easy to get tickets then. And they had like virtual Q&As. It wasn't really the same thing because it was in the comfort of my own home. But I saw 2 or 3 movies there. Oh no, I saw 3. All of them really good. I saw Last Night in Soho there.
Oh my god.
Edgar Wright.
I was literally just talking about Last Night in Soho with Ganesh.
Yeah.
Ganesh is one of the directing students in our cohort, and so
you'll meet him
we
soon.
were talking about that. Yeah, you'll meet him.
Stay tuned. But no, I saw like Last Night in Soho there. I saw oh my god, I forgot. Oh my god, it was a Japanese movie. It's a Japanese queer movie. Oh my god, I forgot what the title was, but it's about this high school kid who like is having this affair with like this older guy,
Oh.
but he gets himself a girlfriend, and so it's just like
Wait.
it's like this.
So
It's
is he bi? Is she
No,
a beard?
no, he's closeted.
Okay.
Um,
So she's a beard, but without
basically,
knowing.
yeah, and so it's
Mm.
like this whole like thing, and I forgot what the name was called, and then I saw a live action adaptation of an anime
Interesting.
manga, Tokyo Revengers, for those who know. That was actually really good.
No, that sounds really cool.
And it was a really nice experience because like while it wasn't like the big whole like film festival circuit,
No, but that
but no,
doesn't matter.
like no, yeah, it was still a great experience. I was able to like take a trip to Busan with friends. It was like really
Also, you're
yeah.
in a completely different country than
That's
is your comfort zone.
that
You get to see a whole different world of filmmaking because filmmaking is so different between
Yeah.
countries. Like Hollywood is its own thing.
Yes.
You know, it's very. I mean, I don't even know what I was gonna say, but like Hollywood is its own thing.
yeah.
But then you have cinema that is very apparent in each country,
Yeah,
and it has its own unique quirks
Themes
and
and yeah.
themes and just styles.
100%.
And so
And like
That's-
I guess this also leads me into another really big sort of influence and inspiration of mine. Just the fact of being in an Asian country, seeing all this Asian media, given the context of certain themes within Asia, we're gonna be talking about our identities in future episodes.
oh yeah.
But like to like sort of like give a little sort of Spark Notes version of me, I'm half Filipino, but I didn't really grow up like that. Like I grew up like detached from that. So Asian stories are something that give me a huge, huge amount of inspiration. Not just Filipino stories. I'm talking Asia, like something within the broad Asian spectrum of things. Parasite is again back to like top four. Parasite is top three films of my life. Favorite. Parasite is a film that just completely rewired my brain and made me think like, fuck, I could actually be this one day.
No, that is incredible.
And Dee actually like it looks very family coming of age, like not
Yeah,
coming.
no. It's
So,
very much a slice
Can you
of
give
life.
like a brief log line of Dee?
Yeah. Okay. Little difficult to give a brief logline,
Oh.
only because it is, and even Sean, when he was talking about it, will say that he was like, for the longest time, he struggled because there's not a huge amount of plot. It's very much slice of life, but it's about a Taiwanese American boy with his friends, and they're in middle school, and it's just kind of like trying to find your identity, like trying to around like family, around friends. Like this boy really enjoyed skating, so he became friends with some of the older kids who probably weren't like the best
Influences, yeah.
but they also weren't bad influences. He was just very different than them because
Yeah.
if I'm remembering correctly, I believe like all the older friends were white, but he was Asian, but he kind of like rejected some of his Asian identity to them. But then also like he was living with his older sister who's about to leave for college.
Oh wow.
Funny,
Yeah,
double,
yeah, yeah.
but she's a senior in high school, and then he's living with his grandma and his mom, and so it's a very that's not a typical family dynamic. Like there was no dad in the picture, but again, it's just this little boy, not little, but like I remember being like 13, 14, and like that's such a hard time because you feel like everything is the end of the world,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like looking back now, you're like you have so much life ahead, whatever. Like there's so much more
No, yeah.
life that is barely the beginning.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm not doing a great job of explaining,
No, yeah,
but
yeah,
if
you're
you
fine.
were to watch it, like, I remember I had tears when I watched that one.
No, 'cause
Honestly, Sundance, a lot of the films
Yeah.
made me cry, but that one, I had tears, and a lot of it, at least for me personally, was like, I resonated with the older sister. And not, like, at first I didn't resonate that much because I'd say I'm very, very lucky. My brother and I are super close. We've never fought
Yeah.
in our lives. Like, never.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, you know, it's not normal. But these siblings fought a lot, like screaming matches at each other at the dinner table, whatever. And so at first I was like, oh man, I'm an older sister. And granted, they had like a larger age gap. But I was like, okay, I don't really relate to this sibling dynamic. And then by the end of it, there was this one scene that I don't even fully remember what it was about, but I remember being like, oh my gosh, I've had this moment with my brother before. And it just made me so sad. And like, again, they have a very different relationship, but I still found parts of myself in it. And again, that's, I think, the beautiful thing is about film is,
Yeah.
and it can be any character, it can be any relationship, it can be whatever. Like, you feel these themes and characters and whatever, even if that person might be so different from you.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much you can find yourself in, which is
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, exactly. No, like, because Dee Dee sounds right
you
up
will
my
love
fucking
it.
alley.
No, you will love it.
It's like, it's exact, like, 100% right up my alley, because I want to be able to tell Asian stories like that focus on identity, especially Asian American stories, because being Asian American is completely different from being diaspora has completely different experience, completely different cultural experiences, even from your motherland. Like, I love, like, Asian stories have influenced my life. Korean cinema, 100%. Hong Kong cinema, Chinese cinema, Thai cinema, like, aside, I love kung fu movies. I grew up with kung fu movies, martial arts films. Like, so much of Asian cinema has influenced me as a filmmaker, as a cinematographer, as a creative. But, like, there's always that stark disconnect of being Asian American as well, and especially growing up with a detachment from that.
No, you will
and
love...
trying to find your identity through that. That's just right up my alley, and, like, oh god, it's a huge inspiration of mine. Film like that, like, another film that comes to mind is, like, The Farewell by Lulu Wang, Past Lives by Celine Song, even.
Oh my god,
like,
I just watched Past Lives not too long ago.
Broken,
incredible,
empty,
and the thing
dead
is
inside.
like, it's okay. And going on to the whole, what I was just saying about relating to things, even if it's different than how the filmmaker intended, which is incredible, being able to put your own self into these films.
Yeah.
I deeply related to Past Lives. And Past Lives is obviously about this woman who moved from Korea back to America. She was to New York City.
Her and her family moved to Canada, and she moved to New York.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes. But, and then she was reconnecting with, like, a childhood love. But then she also had her husband, who was from the States.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a very, very specific story talking about culture and kind of your past and all that, but I related to that film strangely very deeply, but more about a past relationship and my sexuality, and I was able to, like, see so much of, like, my past in that said relationship, but then also in the future being, like, her, like, husband in this being, like, my sexuality and how I identify now, and being like, there's this disconnect, but you also have this fondness for your past, because, like, you're still you, even when you're figuring yourself out.
Yeah.
And so, again, we'll talk about identity later, and so I don't want to go into it, but, like, being able to relate so deeply to this movie in a way different than intended is, like, so wild, but also that's, like, so impressive and so cool. And, again, I loved it, and I absolutely saw what they were doing, and I think they did it incredibly well. But, again, I was shocked that, again, I went into this movie thinking, like, okay, I have the log line, like, I know generally what it's going to be about. I've heard really good things, watched it, didn't expect to be hit as hard, and I was like, whoa, that wasn't supposed to happen. This isn't about what I'm thinking.
No, yeah, it's like you said earlier, where, like, the more specific you get, the broader the audience will be, because it's so heavily rooted, not only in just, like, Korean culture, not, like, because, like, Inyeon, like, they flat out say it's a huge theme in that movie, the idea of fate and everything like that. And so it's not only rooted in that and being Korean, but it's also rooted in, like, assimilation, moving from, like, someone
your past to your future,
moving from someplace homogenous to, like, heterogeneous, and just, like, so it's exactly, like, it's that personified. So it's just, like, it's insane.
I was shocked. I remember being like, whoa, I did not come in here expecting to feel things that deeply, but, you know, okay, whatever. And it was also funny because I was watching that film at Ben's house. Ben is someone else you'll meet soon, but he is actually another directing student here at Chapman who I'm making my next project with. And so we've been watching a lot of films together for prep for our upcoming film, and that was one of the ones on his list. And again, a lot of the films that we've been watching for prep have been a lot more lighthearted, like, on the funnier side, or even if there was, a lot of them do have really deep themes that are, like, a bit difficult to digest, but in a way different. They've been packaged differently than this one. And so I remember just being shocked, and I was like, and I'm like sitting like next, and then I mean he'd be the first to say it too, but he deeply felt it for different reasons than I did, and different than what the film intended, and so we're just kind of sat there in silence afterwards watching the credits roll, and we're just like,
fuck. Yeah.
Okay, so
I
gotta go home now. Bye.
Cry myself to sleep.
Yeah, that was great.
No, the sheer amount of emptiness that I felt after that last scene.
Yeah.
And like,
And I
cause
remember,
like you
just
know what's
feel
going
it.
to happen, but like that doesn't sort of lessen the impact.
Yeah.
So it's just.
Oh my god, you feel it so deeply.
Again, Celine's song "I Love You." Please.
I remember
hug me.
watching an interview that she was in. I think it was one of the Roundtable Hollywood Reporter ones. And she was talking about like, because she wrote and directed it, and
her first ever movie period,
yeah,
like ever in her life, which
crazy.
is insane.
What the?
Hate you.
Yeah.
Love you. But
but I remember she was saying how she wrote this based on her own life, and when she showed it to her mom for the first time, I think, yeah, her mom like at the end of it was crying, and she was like, "This is about me," and she.
No, I remember that.
And I was
like, yeah.
"Oh my god, that hits," because she was writing it about herself, about her experiences, and for her mom to be like, "You wrote my life," like that's wild. And again, it's so cool, and like that is such a testament to like phenomenal filmmakers, but also just like a good goal to have in your own projects, because you always need to find something that you can put yourself into, that you can relate to, but it's really cool when you can reach such wide audiences with these stories. Like storytelling is an art.
No, yeah, and it's so rewarding. I actually have a very similar experience to what Celine had that you just mentioned, where last episode I talked about a little bit about the film I made to get into Chapman. Long story short, it was about. It was very related to my mom's mom, my Lola, having a stroke, and so it's just basically about this whole thing. A kid, everything's going right for him. He's celebrating with his friends. Boom, gets a call. His mom has a stroke, but he's like across the country. He can't do anything. So it taps into a lot of like personal things for me. Fears of like not being there for my family, even though I'm like, because like I'm so geographically separate from them, and like not being able to do that feeling of helplessness. And so I remember making it, and I remember my mom and dad asking to see it when it was completely done and I was ready to like submit it for applications. And so the thing is, like, with me and things I make, I can't be in the room. You're going to shut, bolt, lock, soundproof your doors. I cannot hear it.
I'm gonna go actually flee the country.
Yeah,
for a bit.
yeah. I'm gonna fly into outer space and just drift there for eternity.
And then give me like 7 years to come back down.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about it.
But I remember the night they watched it, I could hear it from like their bedroom.
Oh my god, like, the amount of anxiety that would give me,
like,
I would be like...
There's like a hall separating their bedroom and like mine and my sister's, and so like I was walking from my bathroom to my room and I could hear it. And I was like, okay, let me quickly do my thing, shut my door, and like sensory deprivate myself. And I remember the next day, I think my mom had to work, so I wasn't able to get her opinion on it, but I remember the next day my dad talked about it and like, you made something really great, like, Mom cried. And because like it was very because it was very centered around my Lola, her mom, who at the time of making it was in hospice care. She died shortly after I made it, or filmed it. She died shortly after I filmed it, and she, like, my mom was still kind of in her grief stages, by then. But like hearing that, like it touched my mom, it kind of lifted a weight off my shoulders, because I knew I was submitting it for film applications, and I was always scared like people might not get it, or people might not, like, you know, receive it the way I kind of want it to be received. Which, okay, if you're feeling like that, don't feel like that. People are going to receive it in multiple different ways and multiple different interpretations. Mm-hmm. But knowing that my mom had that reaction to it, I'm like, nothing fucking matters. I have that one person who probably matters the most to me in that circumstance, and she got it, and I've done my job. Yeah. And like, I'm literally tearing up like right now talking about it, but like it's just like it's something like it's something that
huge.
Resonates with what Celine said, and it's like it's absolutely insane that you can have such a lasting effect on,
Yeah.
like, your art can have such a lasting effect on people.
Oh, yeah. And that's something even, like, Ben and I and our team has talked about a bit, too, was, again, very excited to talk about this in a little bit with him whenever he comes on, but, like, our project is kind of a comedy, but it has some really deep undertones.
Yeah.
And it's something that not everyone's going to agree with, first of all. Already half the country doesn't agree. But it could be... It's a topic that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
But we were talking about, like, how we were going to tell the story, and we're still talking about this every day until we get up to our production date. But, like, at the end of the day, something that Ben said that I fully agree with, that he and the rest of our team decided, was, like, at the end of the day, if, like, the core of us like this film and we are happy with the story we're telling, why does it matter what anyone else thinks? Because if we're proud of it, then it doesn't matter. And it's like both very anxiety inducing, but also a huge weight lifted off your shoulders at the same time. To, like, have the realization that, like, if I like it, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, if I do something I'm proud of, who gives a fuck if everyone else hates it?
No, exactly.
But then also, like, it's so scary to be like, I have so much faith in myself to like something and be proud of it. Like, that is also really difficult to be proud of, like, your own work. But
because, like, it's inner saboteur, like, you're always so critical of the things you do. Oh my
gosh. And this is something that I've struggled with for so long and have definitely... I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a perfectionist, but I am an overthinker, and I do love doing things very particular ways. And there's definitely things that I tell myself in my head, or, like, the way I think, that are something that if I were to ever say out loud to anyone else, they would... I would get canceled.
Yeah.
I would get in really big trouble. Or it would hurt someone deeply.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when I'm thinking it to myself, that's okay, it's fine. It's just my brain, whatever.
No, yeah.
But, like, it's crazy. And again, we're getting onto a whole different topic. Like, you being proud of yourself and, like, really being able to be happy with the choices that you're making, especially in art, when it is such a vulnerable form of communication, or just, like, a vulnerable job, like, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself into these stories, and that's hard.
It is.
But I don't even know where I was going with my point. I kind of rambled a bit, but...
No, yeah, but I feel like it's just, like, it's such an important lesson to learn that, like, you should go into something and make sure you come out of it with no regrets. Like, I feel like a quote I kind of live by, this was said by a K-pop idol, everyone, but someone asked him, like, if you could go back to the past and change one thing, what would it be? And his answer has always stuck with me, and it was like, everything I have done to get here, I wouldn't change for a fucking thing. All the highs, all the lows, I would not change a single thing, because it's what got me here to this point in my life that I am content with.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like we should just...
No,
and at a certain point, it's like, you think it's so deep, it's not that deep. It can turn into just, like, a blip of a thing in your entire lifetime.
It's crazy.
And so, yeah, you should just really not, like, always go into some, like, no matter how it turns out, whether you fucking hate it, like, at least go into it knowing that, like, you did everything you could. And, like, again, and even then it's a learning experience. Like,
oh my gosh, for sure. And kind of to wrap up this episode a little bit.
Yeah.
You saying that quote made me think of one of my favorite quotes of all time, and I can't remember who said it, but the quote is, "Be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire." And
bars.
So, bars. No, I know.
Shit.
It has stuck with me since the first time I read it. And it's just, I feel like it's so true, because go fearlessly, like, in what sets your soul on fire. And the thing is no one can choose what that is for you, but if you have something that is something you can't stop thinking about, like, you eat, sleep, breathe, like, all the different things.
Yeah.
Go do it, and do it with confidence.
Yeah.
Because why would you go half-ass something that consumes your mind so much? And again, take that in the positive way, but, like, if we have stories that we like are inside us that we need to tell, we need to go do it
Oh, yeah.
in the way that we want. And again, that's not to say don't take feedback from people who are trying to help you, all the things.
Yeah.
Right? We know all the caveats. But I love that quote.
No, yeah. And also, I feel like it's, yeah, sorry, to wrap up. There will come times where, for the film people listening, there will come times where maybe a project just you won't find a connection right away. And you don't need that connection right away. Like, it doesn't even need to be like a personal, like, you as yourself and identity sort of connection. It can just be like a creative connection. Like, oh, I think I could try something really cool with this. That's your connection. Like, you don't, like...
Find your way in, and then you'll be surprised what'll come out of it.
100%.
And I think, yeah, again, this is going into so many things. I think we should have a whole episode for, like, tips and advice that we've been given, whatever. But I do think that... Oh my gosh, what was I going to say? Oh my god, I totally blanked. I had something good I was going to say. I was going to say, you find your connection and be surprised how much it'll grow and how much more you'll resonate with it the more you sit with it.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, sometimes you just have to do projects for the sake of doing projects.
Mm-hmm.
That happens. That's any job. It's life. But the best thing you can do is to try to put yourself into it in a way that feels personal.
Yeah. And yeah, 100%. I actually couldn't have said it better.
But yeah. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it up there for our second episode, which is crazy.
Yeah, sorry for us getting a little bit sidetracked for a minute there.
I know. But I feel like influences have been the reason that we're able to say these things.
100%.
Even good influences, bad influences, whatever, but I don't know. I feel like we said in some influences, we'll talk about so many more influences. I have so many more movies that I would love to ramble about, talk about.
We can just have an episode of just like our Letterboxd top 4.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely each touched on one, and then we can talk about
the other 3.
Well,
you talked about 2.
Well, I really only talked about 1.
That's true, yeah.
I didn't get to fully go into The Wizard of Oz, or I'm not going to say the other ones yet, but you'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, the other 3 are a surprise.
But okay.
Actually, I talked about 2. But
well, we'll figure it out. Anyways. But okay. Thank you guys for listening, and this has been
Film School Lifeline.